Hi folks, welcome to this gentle yoga practice with me, Sophie Ray. Today I have a practice for you that is inspired by Sthira and Sukha. So these concepts in yoga, which is mainly for the yoga asana practice of the physical postures that we do. In the Yoga Sutras, so the guidelines of yoga, there are only 3 sutras out of 196 that mentions asana. And the first one is Sthira-Sukham Asanam, which basically means asana must have dual qualities of sthira, which is alertness, and sukha, which is relaxation. So these 2 qualities have to exist on the mat when we're practicing asana. So if you think about you're doing something quite challenging, you might be holding a shape for 5 breaths. It's finding those 2 elements, those 2 concepts, both at the same time. So it might be really, really challenging. So maybe you notice that your muscles are engaging and you might be shaking a little bit. Maybe you start to hold your breath. So that is the effort part of it. But then we need to see if we can find a little bit of ease. So that, holding that and feeling really tense and not being able to breathe is not sustainable. It's not going to create a positive reaction in the body. We're just going to get more stressed, more tense, and end up maybe with some injuries, or walking away from our practice not really feeling ready to handle the challenges off the mat. So when properly practiced, there must be alertness without tension, and relaxation without heaviness or dullness. So finding that balance of not putting in too much effort, but then also not putting in any effort at all. It's an effortless effort. So with an open mind, I invite you to explore these 2 qualities in your practice today. So, sthira, so that steadiness, that alertness, it can also be stability and grounding and stillness. Now we don't have to stay completely still, we can move, but it's this stillness where we find a calm, a balance, that groundedness. Sukha is easeful, it's a good place, we can breathe freely, it's comfortable. So we're going to get started, and I'd like you to think, how can you invite those 2 in? So observing what comes up in your practice. How can you navigate the challenging times, the challenging postures? We can use our breath, of course, to help with any moments that feel quite tense and quite challenging. So always using the breath as your first point of call, but it might also be adapting, moving a little bit, finding a position that does feel more stable for you. Everybody's bodies are different. You might choose to use the chair, you might use more props, and I'm going to be giving options for the floor and the chair throughout this practice. If you're on the floor, let's start in Sukhasana, comfortable, easy seat. Now, it is cross-legged, the traditional position, and that is not a comfortable or easy position for a lot of people. So I want you to find your comfortable, easy seat, and that might be sitting up on a couple of blocks, or if you've got a bolster or some pillows, create a nice high seat so that when you do cross your legs, your knees kind of slope down. So you sit a little bit further forward on your prop, You allow your pelvis to slightly tilt forward. Your knees start to point down, so they don't have to point completely to the floor. But if you find that your knees are up here and you're rounding into your back, sitting up a little higher will just allow your knees to fall because your pelvis tilts forward. We can find a little bit of length in the spine, but you might have soles of feet together, knees out wide. You might have feet to the floor, knees bent, and maybe this feels comfortable and easy, but still stable. If you're on the chair, make sure that your feet are flat to the floor or up on a couple of blocks. Find that little wave of length in the spine. And we'll take a breath in to lift up through the crown of the head, grow a little taller, and notice that effort of sitting up tall. On your exhale, allow your pelvis to feel heavy, allow your belly to soften and your shoulders to relax. And then notice that ease, that landing in the space. And I invite you to really slouch here. So start to round your spine. You might lower the chin towards the chest. Let's take a breath in, lift up tall, lift through the crown of the head. Find that effort, a little hug of the low belly. Maybe you bring your shoulders up to your ears and have a little squeeze, so really noticing the tension in the muscles. And then exhale to allow your shoulders to relax, and let's round into the back. Let's do this a couple more times, just flowing between the two. Inhale to lift up tall. You might find a little lift in your pelvic floor. Maybe you start to look up, bring the shoulders up. Exhale as you drop the shoulders, lower the chin, round into the back. It's a very slow cat-cow movement almost. Inhale to lift, grow taller, but we're not taking it into too much of a back bend. Shoulders slide up to the ears, little squeeze. Exhale as you release the shoulders. This is our last one as we round into the back, chin to chest. Let's bring it back to center and find a place in between those two. So you might sit a little taller, almost like you're trying to lift your seat away from the floor, and notice, would you be able to hold this position? Let's allow the pelvis to be heavy. Let's allow the shoulders to rest, but we're still maintaining this little lift through the crown of the head. Start to close your eyes or soften your gaze. And notice your breath. Start to breathe down towards your belly button. And then really invite your belly to expand as you breathe in. The belly draws inwards towards the spine as you breathe out, but it's not a force. If you do want to exaggerate that movement, just to notice the two. So really finding that effort in breathing deep and expanding, of drawing the belly in as you breathe out. So we can exaggerate Sthira and Sukha, and then we can find that midpoint between the two. And you might find that helpful as you explore. Sthira-Sukham Asanam. Dual qualities of alertness and relaxation. You might think of it as steadiness and ease, or effort and ease. Let's take a few more breaths here, settling in. Maybe you take a moment to check in with how you're feeling today. And remember, the theme and the focus that I bring to the table is optional. If you just want to focus on moving your body a little bit today, deepening your breath, connecting to yourself, that is fine. You can leave the focus and the concept to one side and maybe come back to it another day. So noticing where you are today, what do you need today in your practice? How can you support yourself? On your next exhale, start to lower your chin towards your chest, and then inhale to turn your nose to the right, lift it up towards the ceiling, take it over the top, and exhale down the other side. Inhaling up one side of the circle and exhaling down the other. And let's keep it going. Syncing breath and movement. Maybe noticing how your neck is feeling today. Still seeing if you can maintain this little bit of length in the spine, but a heaviness in your pelvis. So you've got that alertness through the spine, but a softness through the base. Chin comes towards chest, we pause here and start to take it in the opposite direction. Warming up through your neck, maybe noticing any little clicks, pops. Maybe noticing if you are over-efforting in any way. So that might be throwing your head really far back. It might be going quite quickly. One more circle. And the next time your chin comes towards your chest, pause there, find a little length in the back of the neck. Make sure you're breathing. And then bring in your chin parallel to the floor. Let's start to shift the shoulders from side to side. Bring a little bit of movement into the spine. If you need to uncross your legs at any point, if you need to shake out your legs or roll your ankles, if you've had them crossed, then please do. And you might even swap the cross of the legs over. So just to balance out the hips. Find a breathing pattern that works for you here as you shift from side to side. You might start to drop ear to shoulder, opposite ear to opposite shoulder. Noticing that swaying movement, noticing a little bit of length down one side of the waist, and then an engagement in the muscles on the opposite side. Let's start to take it into some circles. Next time you come over to the right side, pause there, start to scoop the chest forward, take it over to the left, and then lean back. Let's take around 4 circles in one direction. You might inhale to scoop forward and exhale to lean back. One more on this side. And then as you come over to the right, pause there and let's take it back all the way around to the left. And we take 4 circles on this side. You can choose how wide you're going. We're bringing the movement into the rib cage and the spine, but also into the pelvis. One more circle. And then let's bring it back to center, finding a little length through the spine. And coming back to the breath if you've lost it. Extend your legs out in front. If you are on the chair, you can just walk your feet a little further forward. So it won't be in as extended as this, but that's fine. Keep a bend in the knees. So if you're on the floor, nice soft bend in the knees, toes pointing up to the sky. So this is where the effort comes in, but we're not kind of holding and tensing. We're finding a looseness there as well. Inhale to sweep your arms forwards and up. Exhale, hands to heart. Inhale, forwards and up. Exhale, hands to heart. Keep it going. Inhale, forwards and up, reaching for the toes, reaching for the sky. Exhale, hands to heart. Now you can keep going with hands to heart, or you can play around with cactus in your arms. We're starting to take some shoulder rolls. You could bring your fingertips onto your shoulders and take a little shoulder roll in between, and then sweep forwards and up. So we can play, we can explore, thinking about warming up the joints, warming up the backs of the legs, warming up the shoulders. If you're cactusing the arms, I do encourage you to do this. It will feel slightly different if you're on the chair. You might want to try this on your bed. So if you don't want to get down on the floor, you can always do this on your bed as well. Let's take 2 more. And let's land with the hands down on the knees or thighs. Let's let the legs relax. Give the hips a little wiggle, give the feet a wiggle. Let's bend the knees, plant the feet to the floor, hold onto your shins. Feet nice and wide. Come back to your breath. If you're on the chair, walk your feet a little closer towards you so that you can ground your feet to the floor. Close your eyes or soften your gaze and notice how you feel. Notice any sensations that are present. Where does that movement, where do you sense that movement in your body? And let's blink the eyes open. We're going to make our way to a tabletop. So making your way to all fours if you are on the ground, and you might want a blanket underneath your knees. If you are using the chair, come to stand in front of the chair, hinge from your hips, soft bend in your knees, plant your hands down on the chair. We're going to start to move through our cat-cow. If you're on the floor, make sure that your fingertips are rooted into the ground. Find length in your spine. And then we inhale, start to dip the belly, lift the sit bones, heart draws through. Exhale, tuck the tailbone under, draw the belly button in, chin to chest, round into the upper back. Inhale as you start to dip the belly, lift the sit bones, heart draws through. Exhale, press the ground away and arch into your back. Keep it going. Let's take a few more. Can you notice that effort and ease in your cat-cow? So it's not just about the challenging times, it's not just about the challenging postures or movements or transitions, but even these moments, these kind of slower, soothing movements, sometimes we can over or under effort. But of course we have to acknowledge our energy levels, how we're feeling, how our body's feeling, if we've got any niggles, injuries, all of that comes into play. So this is why we have to try and stay as aware, engaged, connected in our practice as we can. Now, the next time you come through to cat, tuck your tailbone under, draw the belly button in, round into the upper back, and let your head hang heavy. So it's like you're gazing to your knees or thighs. Imagine that space between your shoulder blades is trying to lift up and touch the ceiling. Let the head relax though, give it a nod or a shake. You might press through the tops of the feet or have the toes tucked under. And let's breathe here. See if you can soften a little more into the neck. See if you can keep pressing through all of your fingertips. You have the option here of tucking your toes under if you're on the floor and hovering the knees about an inch off the floor. Of course, if you are on the chair, stay with the cat pose. Head hanging heavy, a softness in your knees. Lower the knees to the ground. Let's inhale to dip the belly, lift the sit bones, heart draws through, coming through to cow. Pause in your cow. If you want to sway a little from side to side, you can. If you need to slowly turn the head from side to side, you could do that. Now let's bring it back to center, a neutral spine. I'm going to show you the floor option for this first, and then I'll show you what to do if you're using a chair. Toes tucked under, we're going to sit back to the heels. Now if this doesn't feel comfortable, then you can stay lifted the entire time. It's just going to change the movement slightly. So we'll start with bum to heels. We inhale to sweep the arms up. Exhale, twist to the right and reach your arms out wide. Look behind you. Inhale back to center, arms up. Exhale, sit down, sweep your arms behind you and feel a little squeeze in the shoulders. Inhale to reach up. Exhale to twist to the left. Inhale to reach back up. Exhale, sit down, arms sweep back behind you. Keep it going. Now, if you're staying lifted, so you're not sitting back to the heels, we inhale to reach up. We exhale to twist. Inhale back to center. Exhale, arms sweep back behind you, and you're just not sitting back down. Inhale to lift. Exhale to the left. If you are using the chair, you've got a couple of options. You can sit on the chair. You can inhale to stand and reach the arms up. Exhale to twist. Inhale back to center. Exhale to sit down. Just watch that you don't miss the chair and sweep your arms back behind you. Or you can stay standing the entire time and take the movements from a standing position or a seated position. So choosing what works for you. Let's take a few more. Make this your last one. And instead of sweeping your arms back behind you, land the hands down to the floor or on your thighs. Let's find our way back to a tabletop. So standing up to find your tabletop if you're on the chair, and coming back to all fours. Tuck your toes under. Hands might come up onto a couple of blocks. I do recommend lifting the ground a little higher to you. So we're going to be finding our way to a warrior one. So let's lift the hands up onto blocks. Lift the hips to the sky. Find your first downward facing dog. If you're on the chair, walk the feet a little further away, bend into the knees, hinge from the hips, and then send the head in between the upper arms. Just noticing that stretch into the armpits, across the upper back. Take your time, ease yourself in, a little bend of the knees, a little ease in and out of the shoulders. Same thing if you're on the floor, pedaling it out. Lifting and lowering. Now, come back down to the knees. Hands lift up a little higher. So maybe the second highest of your block or the third highest. Step the right foot to the right hand. It can be inside or outside. Tuck the back toes under, lift the back knee. Runner's lunge. Let's take a couple of breaths here. So just getting yourself feeling into the feet, finding that stability and that grounding. Notice if where any tension might be creeping in, like tension that feels restricting, uncomfortable. If you're holding your breath, let's see how we can bring that comfort and that ease in. Those on the chair, slightly different because you'll be going from standing anyway. Right foot steps forward, left foot Watch out for any blankets, hops back. And you're in quite a high runner's lunge. So just being mindful of any blankets and things, because we don't want to be sliding all over the place. So from our runner's lunge, we are going to ground the left heel down and your toes point off to about 10 or 11 o'clock. Press firmly through this right foot and let's roll up through the spine. Stay connected to the left foot as well. Hands come to heart center as we find our warrior one stance. Now you can readjust your feet as you need once you come up to make sure you feel stable. Have a little feel into it. Check that you're breathing. Find this little lift through the crown of the head. So like we did at the start when we were in Sukhasana. Let's inhale to lift up through the crown of the head. Exhale to ground down through the feet. Little bend in the knees. Relax the shoulders and the jaw. Inhale to lift. Maybe you slightly straighten the legs. Exhale to ease back in. Try and press equally through both feet as best you can. Option to reach your fingers to the sky. Hands might be wide to create space in your shoulders. Palms might be together. Option to bend the elbows and bring the thumbs to the back of the head or the back of the neck. So we're getting this extra opening through the shoulders and the chest. If standing doesn't feel good and you want to do a chair version, we can take it into a lunge position. We slide that left leg back, see if you can extend it, press through the blade edge of the foot. You might not be able to see, so let me move a little further forward. So right foot stays to the floor, we shuffle over onto the left side of the mat and we slide that left leg back. We're not taking it directly behind us, it's slightly out to the side. Make sure that feels okay. Other option is to bend the knee so that the knee points down. And we take a lunge version. So let's take a few more breaths. We're going to hold these shapes for just a little bit longer than we usually would. So noticing as you're here for a little bit longer, if your breath starts to waver, if you need to make any adjustments to find more stability, to make it more sustainable, can you use your breath to help guide you through any challenges that come up? Where in your body does it feel challenging? Where does it feel like you might not be putting as much effort in? We're exploring, so you don't have to overthink it. Scan through your body, notice. If you're not sure, that's absolutely fine. Let's reach the fingers up towards the ceiling and let's bring the hands all the way back down to the heart. Take a moment to rest. Hands come all the way back down to either your chair or to your blocks. Lift the back heel back in our runner's lunge and then lower the knee back down to the floor. Let's step the right foot back. Come back to your tabletop. Take a moment to readjust. And then we're going to take it to the other side. Left foot steps forward. Maybe readjusting your blocks, bringing the floor to you, tuck the back toes under, lift the back knee, runner's lunge. Notice how it feels on this side. Find a little bit of length in the neck. Maybe notice if you're here and tensing, shoulders bunched up around the ears. Let's relax around the neck and shoulders, and you can always have a little wiggle around to ease out any tension that might be creeping in. Sometimes I like to breathe out through my mouth as well. I feel like if I'm breathing through my nose too much, which is really good for us because we take in more oxygen when we breathe through the nose, I find that my jaw is tensing. So I like to take a long breath out through my mouth just to allow my jaw and my throat to relax. Let's ground the right heel down. It's a short stance, so you might find that you're bumping that back foot up a little so you can really feel the foot to the floor. Press through the left foot, slowly roll up. You might inhale as you roll up. Hands to heart, readjust your feet as you need. Feet are on two lines here. So you've got more stability, you've got a wider base. And we're stacking head, heart, pelvis. Maybe notice if you're kind of leaning forward a little bit. There might be a little bit of fear of lifting up and finding that midline. So notice where you are in space and how that feels for you to be here. Remember that back foot is there for support as well. Let's inhale to lift up through the crown of the head. Exhale to ease back in. Spread the toes. Notice if you're gripping the toes into the mat. Inhale to lift. Exhale to ease in. And you might notice the opposite is happening here. So I've just realized that when we were in Sukhasana, as we inhale to lift up, I felt that there was more effort. And then when we exhaled, we really let ourselves be soft. And that is happening here. But as I'm inhaling to lift up and out, I'm feeling more of a lightness, more of an ease. And then as I'm exhaling, I'm feeling more of an effort, a grounding, a stability. But yeah, they're still the two qualities are still there. They've just kind of swapped roles a little bit, if that makes sense. But you notice what is going on for you. Maybe you reach your fingers to the sky, maybe you bend your elbows. Let's take a few more breaths. And remember, you can come out if you need to. You don't have to stay here the entire time. If anything is going on in your legs and you need to come out and shake out, or if you want to keep hands to heart, you can do that. So still honouring what is going on in your body today, how you're feeling, how your energy levels are. Let's reach the fingers to the sky. Hands come all the way back down to floor or blocks. Let's lift the back heel back in our runner's lunge. Let's have a little bounce on that back foot. And we're going to step the right foot to meet the left. Bend into the knees, let your body hang heavy. Find a forward fold that feels good here. Maybe you take hold of your elbows. Maybe your hands stay connected to the chair or the blocks. Press through the heels. Let's slowly roll up through the spine, making our way to Tadasana, our mountain pose. Pause here in your mountain pose. Feet could be together or apart. Maybe your arms are out by your sides, so finding that little bit of effort. Standing tall, strong, powerful like a mountain. Notice if you're tensing anywhere and soften. Feel your feet connected to the floor. Maybe imagine that your breath is flowing through the entire length of your body. As you breathe in, breathe up through the soles of the feet, right up to the crown of the head. Exhale from the crown of the head all the way down through the soles of the feet. Blinking your eyes open. Make sure that your chair or your blocks are in front of you, and you might want to move blankets to one side so that you don't slide around. On your next inhale, sweep your arms overhead. And as you exhale, let's hinge from the hips, bend into the knees and fold. Hands meet either the chair or your blocks on the highest point. Step the right foot back, ground the heel. Warrior One stance. We've been here before. Press firmly through both feet. Inhale as you roll up through your spine. Maybe hands come to heart as you exhale and land in your Warrior One. Virabhadrasana One. Option to reach your arms up. Pause here for a couple of breaths. You might even look up if that feels okay in your neck. Slow, steady breaths. Start to straighten through that left leg. Maybe your fingers are reaching up to the sky. And then sweep your arms behind you and find a grip of choice. Either interlace your fingers, take wrists or forearms. Take a breath in, lift through the chest. Exhale to bend the left knee and bow forward. When you need to breathe in, breathe in. Breathe out. Maybe you continue the journey or you might stay kind of halfway. Humble warrior. Now you can take it as low as you like, bowing down to the inside of the left leg. So we're not collapsing on that left thigh and resting and hanging out. We're using the stability of the feet, strength of the legs. If you've got a clasped fist, you might reach your fists up towards the ceiling and draw the shoulder blades together and gaze to the right toes. But you might equally be somewhere up here, hands resting on the low back. You could even have a chair, I would say a little closer towards you than this. And then bow the head. Let the head hang heavy. And breathe. On your next inhale, let's come all the way up. We can release the hands from behind us and we're going to bring the hands to the hips just as we arrive back in our Warrior One stance. Reaching your arms out in front, wrap the right arm underneath the left. So we're scooping the arm under and then crossing the elbows and maybe bringing hands to shoulders, lifting the elbows, finding a little broadness across the upper back. But you can always bring backs of hands or palms to touch. So we're wrapping the forearms, eagle arms. Finding your eagle arms. Once you're there, let's take a breath in to lift the chest. Little back bend. Look up, lift the elbows or the fingers. Exhale, round into the back, elbows towards the stomach. Inhale to lift. Exhale to round through. One more inhale to lift. And one more exhale to round through. Bring it back to center. Now you can do any of these sat on a chair. So you don't have to be, if your legs have had enough, you can stay on the chair and you can still do this movement. You've got that option of sliding the leg back. It might even be out to the side. So you're still in a Warrior One, but you've got that support of the chair beneath you. So that is always there for you as well. Now, if you want to join in, we're going to take a little bit of a balance challenge. Let's explore, open mind, lots of love and compassion, work with where you are today, use a wall or a chair for extra support. Now, you can keep your hands in this position. This will make it slightly harder for balancing, so you can always release the arms and bring hands to hips. I'm going to show you with the arms crossed, but you can take it with them uncrossed, okay? Start to lean forward into the left foot and lift that back heel. Let's start to step to the top of the mat, slide that right foot in, maybe the foot hovers. We come to stand with the knee lifted. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Start to bend into the left knee. Turn the right knee out to the side. Couple of options here. You can set the ankle to just above the knee in a figure 4 and then sit down. You can always bring the toes to the floor, heel to the ankle, and find a tree variation. So rather than an eagle variation. Or you can come into eagle pose, where we slide the thigh over. Maybe your toes meet the floor. Maybe they land on a block. We sit down, weight is in the left heel, and we hold here. So from the side, we're bending into the left knee. We've got either hands in eagle arms, whichever variation you like, or maybe hands to hips. And let's take a couple more breaths. Find a spot to focus on. Notice where the effort is. Notice where the ease is. Press through that left foot. Inhale, come to stand. Release the arms, release the legs, and have a good shake out. Now let's go to the other side. Have everything set up. Remember when I said that you could have hands to hips, you can also be holding a wall or a chair as you're stepping forward. So you've got something by the side of you to help you into the standing position, to help guide you into the eagle or the tree variation or the figure 4. Let's do the other side. So now we know where we're going. Take a moment to pause and breathe. Maybe notice if that felt quite challenging. Maybe your heart is beating a little bit faster. Blood pumping, energy flowing. On your next inhale, reach your arms up. Exhale as you fold. Hands landing to chair or to blocks. Step the left foot back, ground the heel, warrior 1 stance. Make sure you feel stable. Inhale to rise up. Exhale as you land in your warrior 1. Maybe you're reaching the arms up and taking a couple of breaths here. Start to straighten through the right leg, press into the right big toe, grow a little taller, and then sweep your arms behind you and find your grip of choice. And take a breath in, lift the chest. Maybe you look up. Exhale, start to bend the front knee, start to bow over it. Take it slow. Breathe in when you need to. Breathe out to continue the journey. Maybe you're going a little lower, exploring how this feels to bow down. Let your head hang heavy, to not collapse onto the right thigh. And you can have a go at resting on the right thigh and seeing how that feels. And then lifting away and noticing the muscles that engage. And where can you find that comfort and that ease when the muscles are engaging? Maybe hands come to the chair, maybe they come to blocks. Press through the feet firmly. Take a breath in to come up. Exhale, hands to hips. Reaching your arms out in front, left arm wraps underneath the right, and we find our eagle arms on this side. And it might feel different. Start to bring the weight into the right foot, start to lift the back heel. You might be hopping that back foot in rather than lifting it and floating. You can try both options. You can try different ways of getting there. Remember, you can always come back to the video and have a go and explore. So options, figure 4, left ankle just above the knee and we sit down. Maybe we're sliding the thigh over, crossing the legs, toes to the floor. Maybe we're in a tree pose. Maybe we are sat down in eagle and we cross the legs. So we're crossing left over right. Maybe we bring the foot to a block for some support. Maybe we play around with wrapping the left foot behind the right calf. Keep the right foot planted to the floor though. Couple more breaths. Let's inhale to release, to stand, and set the foot down and shake it off. Okay. Feet planted firmly to the floor. We're going to wrap the left arm underneath the right. We're going to take a few of those cat-cows because I forgot to add them in. If you want to slide the left foot back and come back into your warrior stance, then you can join me here. Let's take a breath in, lift the elbows, lift the fingers, back bend. Exhale as you round through. Inhale to lift. Exhale, round through. Inhale to lift. Exhale, round through. Inhale back to center. Let's release the arms. Let's step back to the top of the mat into mountain. On your next inhale, reach your arms up. Exhale as you fold. Hands meeting chair or floor or blocks. And let's step the feet back. And you can either come straight into downward facing dog, or you can step back to a tabletop and then find a downward dog. And of course you've got the chair option, walking the feet back, ears in between the upper arms, pedal yourself out or move a little here. And then we're going to make our way down to the ground. Now, if you are on the chair, okay, so if you are on the floor, grab a blanket for underneath the knees, come to a tabletop. And we're going to lower down onto the forearms. Now, this is option 1. Palms planted into the floor or palms together. And I encourage you to take hold of your upper arms and just check the distance. So we want the elbows underneath the shoulders. We plant the elbows down to the ground. We keep the elbows where they are and then we separate and we plant the palms down or palms together. Now let's round into the upper back like we did for cat pose. Let the head hang heavy. And the crown of your head is looking to the floor and you're looking through your legs or to your knees or thighs. So just like our cat pose, and we're pressing the ground away with the elbows, letting the head hang. Let's hold it here and breathe. If you are on the chair, let's see how this feels. I've never done this before, so let's explore it together. Bend into your knees, elbows down onto the chair. Check that this feels okay in your back. I encourage you to generously bend your knees here, and you might not stay here for as long if it does feel uncomfortable. But we can still round into the upper back. We can let the head hang heavy. We're still gazing in between the thighs. And really push into your forearms as if you're trying to lift your shoulders up and out of the joint, as if you're trying to lift the crown of the head away from the floor. Let's breathe for another 3, 2, and 1. And we can slowly come back out the same way that we got in. We can lift the hands. We can come back into a tabletop. We can take any movements here to ease out. You might want to turn your head from side to side. If you're on the chair, you might want to take a moment just to stand up and sway the hips. If you're in a tabletop, you can take a few rounds of cat-cow or moving your spine from side to side. And we're going to make our way to the ground. If you're lying down, grab what you need for final relaxation. Come to lie down. Bend your knees, plant your feet to the floor, and when you're ready, take a breath in to lift the hips and find a bridge. If you are on the chair, we can come to sit down, plant the feet to the floor, and we can either take a seated version where we lift the chest. We're taking more of a cow pose. Or you can slide yourself over onto one side of the chair, slide the leg back and create this opening in the hip. We're sliding the leg back as far as it will go and then lifting the chest. So we're creating this back bend, but kind of just on one side. And then we can do it on the other side. The other option is to stand, plant the feet to the floor, hands to the low back, gently press the hips forward as you lift the chest. Make sure you do both sides if you're taking the chair version with the legs slid back. If you're on the floor, on an exhale, slowly roll your spine all the way back down and give your knees a little swish from side to side. If you're on the chair, you can come to sit down, plant your feet to the floor or upon a couple of blocks. And you might take some flowing, twisting movements. And then let's find our final position where we can rest. Maybe there's a pillow or a blanket underneath the head. Maybe you've got a pillow or bolster underneath the backs of the legs. You have the option of coming into constructive rest, knees bent. Let the knees knock in and rest the hands to the belly. Or traditional Shavasana. And we can really let go here. Let the floor support you. Notice if you're holding on, if you're gripping anywhere in your body. Make any little movements and adjustments to get really comfortable. On an exhale, allow your body to feel really heavy. And this is where we integrate. We download all the benefits from the practice. Nothing else that we need to do. Nowhere else that we need to be. If your hands are on your belly, you might focus on the rise and fall of the breath. Let's find something that we can help keep us anchored in the practice for these last few moments, so our mind isn't racing ahead to the next thing that we need to do. Let's dedicate a little bit of time to stillness, to rest. Start to sense the room around you. And listen out for any sounds. Notice any smells. And can you sense the temperature of the room? And I invite you to scan through your body, checking in with how you feel, keeping that open mind, and get curious about how you feel. Maybe you notice some little shifts and changes. Maybe there are some things that still feel the same as when you stepped on your mat, and that's fine. Everything is welcome. And every practice is different. Start to deepen your breath. Start to bring a little bit of movement back into fingers and toes. And let's bend into the knees, plant the feet to the floor. And take a breath in to tilt your pelvis forward, breathe into the belly. So as if you're trying to lift your low back away from the floor. Exhale to gently flatten the low back down. Inhale to tilt the pelvis forward. Exhale to flatten the low back down. And you can take a very slow movement like this if you're on the chair. Inhaling to rock the pelvis forward. Exhaling to rock it back. And let's start to bring a little bit of other movement in. So what feels good for you here? That might be a swish of your knees from side to side. Might be taking your arms overhead and stretching out. Maybe it's bringing the knees to the chest or reaching the toes up to the ceiling. Have a little wiggle around on the mat. Before rolling onto one side, keeping your eyes closed or heavy eyelids as you push yourself up. Back to Sukhasana, your easy seat, whatever that means to you. Sitting up on pillows, blankets, blocks. Resting the hands down on knees or thighs. Let's take a breath in, lift up through the crown of the head, sit tall. Exhale to allow your pelvis to soften, ground the sit bones down, relax the shoulders, but maintain that alertness in your spine, alert yet soft. Let's come back to the breath here. And consider how you can navigate any challenges that you might face off your mat. In a calm and centered way. So So how can you take this idea of Sthira and Sukha and relate it into your everyday life? And that is just a suggestion, just to see what comes up. How can you find that balance? And it's like remaining cool and collected and grounded in a really challenging situation. Maybe you're having a confrontation with somebody, a stranger in the car park. How can you use this idea of Sthira and Sukha to stand your ground but remain calm and relaxed? Just a little food for thought there. Let's bring the hands together if you wish to join me at the heart space, thumbs connecting to your sternum. Let's take a breath in together and let it out as you bow your head. Bowing down to anybody that might be joining you in the practice today. Bowing down to yourself, thanking your body, your breath, your mind, your spirit, everything that makes you, you. And I bow down to you. Thank you so much for joining me and allowing me to guide you through this practice today. Have a wonderful day, week, evening, and I hope to see you again soon. Take care. Bye.